Good morning on this Sunday, December 1st, and welcome to the Georgia Gang. It's December. How close is Governor Brian Kemp on his pick for U.S. Senate? The city of Atlanta's human resources chief resigned this past summer, so why are taxpayers still paying her salary? And state lawmakers propose a bill to make sure everyone in a vehicle buckles up. The gang is all here. Theron, Phil, Janelle, Alexis. The debate and discussion begin right now.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
No announcement just yet at the time of this taping on who Governor Brian Kemp will choose to replace the retiring Johnny Isakson, but we know a lot has been happening behind the scenes. And Phil, the AJC reports that the governor took one of his top picks, Kelly Loeffler, up to Washington to meet with President Trump. What do you know here, if you can give us some inside scoop?
Right. Well, just for the viewers, we're taping the day before Thanksgiving, but I think I can say with pretty much confidence that nothing's going to happen this week. I think the president's going to be doing his Thanksgiving thing at Mar-a-Lago, and I don't think anything's going to happen until Monday or Tuesday. A couple quick points here. Yes, you referenced the Sunday trip to the White House with Kelly Loeffler and the governor and the president, and I think naturally that was going to leak out. And so I think this, I'm looking in my crystal ball now and trying to provide the best analysis here. I don't think, and I think Doug Collins would be a fine senator, but I don't think he's going to be appointed. And we knew, I said this last week, I think agreed when we saw that Kelly Loeffler, the prominent businesswoman from Atlanta, his name was on that list. That was a signal from the governor. So you don't have to be in politics that long to know that. And so I think if I again look in the crystal ball, I think the governor's going to stick with Kelly. And I think that she's going to have to be introduced properly. And that goes to my last point, because this is going to be a special election. They haven't set the date yet. The qualifying is very important. Qualifying is in March for both the Democrats and Republicans, because it's this open seat, as you point out, that Johnny Isakson's leaving. And so Doug Collins still has a lot of cards to play if he wants to. So the last question is, what will Doug Collins do if he's not appointed? Will he be a team player, or will he, and if Kelly Loeffler rises or falls in her campaign, and we'll know that in the weeks and months to come if she's appointed, Doug Collins could say, you know what, if the base wants me, if I have enough support, I'll get in there. How does that bode for Republican unity, or that's the big question.
Phil, I have a question, if you know the answer to this. Do you know that she wanted to apply, or that the governor asked her to apply, because it was such a last minute, it was the last day of the application?
Yeah, I think that she got the green light from the governor. I have no firsthand knowledge, but I'm just thinking politically she wouldn't have done that. And I think the president in the very end is going to have to decide that this is the governor's appointment, and shall I go along with it?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Theron, we'll turn to you on this. This is the governor's decision. This is a Georgia decision, and I think voters in Georgia trust that Brian Kemp will make the right decision. But is it Loeffler? Loeffler, because you interviewed her, because I've heard it Loeffler and Loeffler, so it's Kelly Loeffler. Is Kelly Loeffler a candidate who can appease the far-right Trump supporters and really play to this, female suburban Republican base also?
So, last week I said that this was the governor's decision. I think that this meeting on Sunday with this trip showed that it's a Governor Kemp decision with an enormous amount of influence from President Trump. I think that Phil reported last week that they wanted someone that could support the president's agenda. But I think if it looks like Kelly Loeffler is going to be the person, then exactly what you just said is, I think it's a tremendous challenge for the Republican Party. We know that there are high-ranking Republican officials right now who want someone that, as they go back to their districts, state senators, state reps, when they're on the ballot, they want someone that can drive up the rural turnout. They want someone that doesn't put them on the, basically on the table to get crucified politically if they have someone that's too far right. I mean, you talk to some of the folks who lost races that were Republicans in the metro area. They won't tell you this publicly, but privately they've shared with me that it was really President Trump's unpopularity with disaffected Republican educated suburban women. And so if the governor chooses Kelly Loeffler to be the person to run, then I think you attempt to try to solve your suburban white woman problem. But what happens to the rural voters who now are going to say, okay, we didn't get anyone that we wanted? And I know the number one rule in politics, if you're an elected official, is don't abandon your base.
But here's the thing that I think about, the top of the ticket. that problem is solved, right? You've got President Trump at the top of the ticket. You have Senator David Perdue at the top of the ticket. Then you've got a choice. So aren't they appeased? Janelle, maybe weigh in too here.
Yeah, so when I look at this, I know that Governor Kemp is clearly trying to do something that's different out of the box, and I think that's good. I think that he is also having to consider so many different angles, such as re-election, his end game. You have to consider, expanding the tent, and is this going to be a good move for that? But I also think that you have to be careful that when this time comes, and you can, now make a power move or do something different, that it's the right timing. Because, with President Trump on the ballot and Senator Perdue on the ballot, I think that does make me question a little bit, what is the motive? Is this the good timing for this right now? We have the impeachment inquiry that's, underway that is going to possibly move into the Senate. So I'm sure, we want to make sure that, we definitely have the right people in the position then. So it's a lot to consider. And
Alexis, Democrats are just kind of waiting in the wings.
Yep, waiting to see who the challenger they're going to have to meet. But it's interesting, though, because she is so wealthy, she can self-fund, so that it eliminates that worry about raising the money to run again. But I do think it is going to be a challenge for the Republicans no matter what. I think the governor's kind of got himself in a corner here. He's going to have to figure out how to get out.
But the Democratic Party has got a problem too, because there's a split between the more centrist liberal wing of the Georgia party and the radical socialist wing.
And that's the same problem the Republican Party has. But let me say this, you're going to have three millionaires on the top of the ballot. President, who self-proclaimed millionaire. David Perdue, who we know is a millionaire, and then if it's Kelly Loeffler, 3 millionaires. And so what I'm telling you, Lori, that doesn't play well with middle-class Americans and independents in this state. They won't. And then the thing is, and I know Democrats and Republicans who know Kelly personally. They say great things about her. So I want to preface what I'm about to say. But we're talking about U.S. Senate. This woman has never run for office before. I don't think she has any idea how deep and cold that water is in Georgia. When you put your name on a ballot, not only her husband, her entire family, all her family members are going to be vetted thoroughly. So I just hope that if she's to pick, that the Republicans understand you're putting a very inexperienced not inexperienced in business.
In addition to David Perdue, who was the same.
And David Perdue defeated the Democrat, and so an outsider can win.
But I think that the climate, because one thing that David Perdue doesn't get the credit for, and I've told him this personally, he invented the term outsider, right? Before President Trump ran for presidency as outsider. I just think the climate is a little different because the suburban woman problem was not as prevalent then as it is now. And I just think that they got to make sure that they prepare her for what she's about to endure, because while we've seen the amount of money that Republicans raise, Democrats are going to put hundreds of millions of dollars in this state to defeat the Republicans.
And we know it's going to get mean and nasty. And so, Phil, does this mean that Brian Kemp could choose somebody else? I think Doug Collins has really overplayed his hand, but with the threats, right? He could jump in. Maybe if Kelly Loeffler, we've seen Debbie Dooley and some of the Tea Party folks come out really against her. So we see this split in the Republican Party. What about bringing in a different candidate? We've heard about Jackie Gingrich Cushman. Newt plays well in the state of Georgia. She's a suburban woman. Could he just, pick somebody entirely different?
Well, I think that time has come and gone. I think that a decision has to be made very quickly politically to do the appointment. And just for viewers that may be coming in a little late, I think we agreed that Congressman Collins made a rookie political mistake by challenging a week and a half ago the governor and saying, look, if you don't appoint me, I'm thinking of running. That probably backfired, no doubt. And so, and again, it is the governor. Yes, it's the governor's appointment.
I just think that this is, and again, the governor is going to make up his own mind now with a tremendous amount of influence from the Perdues as well and President Trump. I just think that he's thinking that who helps me in 2022, but to put someone that's never run for office before in this climate, I just think it's very risky.
Well, that's why I say we'll know more as the weeks and months go by if she is appointed, and then you could be proven correct, or you could be, or it could be like David Perdue. She gets right into it.
And you have to point out too, this is the jungle primary. So if you have, a strong Democrat enter the race, and then Doug Collins wants to get in against maybe perhaps Kelly Loeffler? Do you split the Republican Party, and then you've got the Democrat
emerging as the winner?
Or does Doug Collins
There's a
want
lot
to be?
to play
The
here.
Republicans don't want to do one thing, and that is lose the seat.
Right.
And
Right.
so that's some decisions are going to have to be made before qualifying in March.
And he maybe
Right,
should have
right.
rethought this whole show of opening up the nominations to anybody who wants to apply. And
see how it all
I called him a
shakes out.
winner. I called him a winner a couple of weeks ago because it did open up to candidates like Kelly Loeffler, and other candidates too. But I don't know.
Now you're not so sure.
I'm not so sure. For his sake, I'm not so sure.
All right. Well, coming up, a Fox 5 report reveals the city of Atlanta's former Human Resources Commissioner is still drawing her salary months after she resigned. We'll discuss.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Email them at georgiagang@foxtv.com.
According to a Fox 5 News report by Morris Diggs, the city of Atlanta is now paying for 2 human resource chiefs. Although Marion Woods resigned earlier this summer, Diggs reports she's still collecting her paycheck, and city council members want to know why. The city officials say she's still working on projects from home. Theron, do you have any insight on any of this?
Well, I think the thing that was very interesting about Mo Diggs' story is, and I want to compliment him for actually showing both sides. You had a council member, Councilman Michael Julian Bond, who is revered amongst a lot of people who I know and myself. He gave me my start in politics on the city level. But then you also had some people from the labor unions who said that they really thought that she was doing a good job. The one thing I want to clear for our viewers is that there was an allegation made against Marion Woods that came back to be completely false. There was a thorough independent investigation about some verbal exchanges and physical. So there was no physical. So this former city employee, well, I guess currently city employee, soon to be former city employee, went away gracefully. And there were some projects that she's been working on that, quite frankly, she was working on before all of this sort of chaotic things happened. And so I think what the city has done is that they've communicated that, hey, we want her to finish up these very special projects that are very, very important for the growth and the direction of the Human Resources Department, but you have to have someone in there acting to make sure that the city still has the human resources services that they need. And so while I thought Mo Diggs' story was fine, I just want our viewers to know that this is someone who went away gracefully. She didn't want to stop being HR chief. She actually wanted her job back. I think she complied to what Mayor Bottoms wanted, and they asked her to finish up these special projects, and once they're over, she'll be done. But here's the bottom line. If you're doing work for the city of Atlanta, you deserve to be paid. And she's actually doing the work, and I think that when she's done, she'll be able to show that result.
Well, I would have to say, my only question is, when you resign, you pick an effective resignation date. So I feel like, it's your responsibility to look at your projects and see, what projects is going to go past the date that I am trying to resign on, or should I just select a date that allow me to complete my project? So that's one thing. And then, when I look at all of this, I just feel like it's just another thorn in the flesh of Mayor Bottoms, where it's just like, here goes another thing that just keeps happening over and over again in the city of Atlanta. But we just have to be very careful when it comes to making certain decisions. And if she's still working, then she's not resigned, right?
Well, I think the issue is also if she's working, does she still need this full salary also being paid over $200,000?
That's a good point. And, we were just talking about the consolidation of several agencies under a transportation person. By the way, I like Josh Rowan. Thank you for pointing that. Yes.
Shout out to Josh.
So thank you. A shout out to Josh. but you don't want two people getting the same salary if you're resigning. To your point, let's transfer those projects to you don't need 2 HR people. Let's transfer those projects. That's just good business.
Yeah, I think there was a transition plan that was communicated to the people who it should have been communicated to. She was working on these projects before this unfortunate incident occurred. She complied with the investigation. She continued working during the investigation. Now that the investigation has come back to say that she did not do anything physically or verbally inappropriate. She's working on these special projects that she has basically been asked to do. And I think once they're done, then you'll see it there. But the 2 salary thing, I think that Mayor Bottoms has made it, and along with council, has made it very, very clear that they want to reduce a lot of the money that's being spent on employee salaries. If you look at some of the salaries in previous administrations, not just the previous administration, compared to what the people in Mayor Bottoms' administration is making, I think you'll see there's a big difference there.
We need some hard dates on resignations, I think. They get a little murky in the city. I want to move on because The state has released its list of failing schools, and the city of Atlanta, the APS school system, has 3 more failing schools. Now, does this lend some credence to the decision to get rid of Maria Karstarfin? Alexis.
Well, it may. I mean, it is surprising that the additional 3 schools did come in at the bottom of the pile in this year's report. So, it's really disturbing about how they're going about trying to remedy this. A couple of them have been named to be charter schools, and they still didn't do any better. So it's a debate about the charter school issue for sure.
Well, I think also, I mean, there's so many factors at play also.
You know, let me just weigh in. I don't care if you've got the best school superintendent in the country. There's factors that a superintendent can't control. I'll just name one. I've said this before. Look at the sad absentee rates of students in some of these schools, and this is a community-wide problem.
Yes.
You've got all sorts of different societal and income factors. If you don't have kids in the classroom most of the time, and some of these percentages in these schools are terrible. You can have all the money you throw at it, you can have some of the finest teachers, you can have charter schools, you can have a nice public school, but until we do, and schools won't release a lot of their absentee rates. When you do freedom of information requests, it's very difficult to get them because that's how they get their federal money too.
But I want to commend the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Phil beats them up every now and then, calls them a liberal media outlet.
They are.
I want to employ the other media outlets that wrote these revering stories about Maria Karstarfin. I mean, you couldn't turn around every single day, every single week how great she was, right? I want some of these same news outlets, and I'm not going to call their names, but they watch the show and they know who they are, to do exactly what the AJC just did, to point out that this went into the decision making for this board to not renew her contract. You can't give her all these glowing remarks when you have failing schools, and now you had 3 more added to the list. We have known for a long time that APS have not been performing at the average that they needed to compare to the state average. And so I'm just kind of shocked that at a time where folks on this panel has basically complimented her, why don't you just call it what it is? This woman could not do what she needed to do to improve the schools that were already
No, because I won't take away from what she has done.
Okay.
If you look at the graduation rates, when she came in, 59%,
but
close to 80% now.
But Lord,
that's huge.
Lord, we come on the show. We
yeah.
come on the show. We hold Mayor Bottoms accountable for everything at the city of Atlanta.
Right.
Let's hold the superintendent.
And I am. I'm not saying that 3 more failing schools on the list is a good thing. I'm saying it lends credence to
for
what
once, I want to stand up for the board's decision that they were kind of, locked down. They couldn't come out and say what we see now. That, and as Lexus pointed out, they went to this full charter system. These schools were supposed to be performing. We know that there are schools on the south side that are not performing well, and that's going to come out as she continues to make herself available around town. And so I just want to commend AJC, and I encourage all of these other news outlets.
Then I want to see the new superintendent who is hired get rid of every single failing school in the city of Atlanta.
No,
it's a challenge.
We
It's
do
not
want to see
easy
that.
to do.
We do want to see
We
that.
do, but it's not easy.
Y'all defended her and
And
trashed the board on this
She did
show.
a good job.
I never bashed the board.
You forget
I
about,
just
though, the
defended her.
graduation
I
rates, the
defended-
test rates,
Guys,
and also
schools-
charter
we're 3 minutes
schools
over
are
and I gotta
beloved
go.
by African
We're going to
Americans.
discuss a new proposed
Some-
law that
some of
requires
them, not
everyone
all
in
of
the car
them,
to
Phil.
wear a seatbelt. Stay tuned.
I'm sure you've talked to all of them.
Join the discussion on the Georgia Gang Facebook page and watch past episodes on the Georgia Gang YouTube channel.
Well, you may not know this, but if you're an adult and you don't wear a seatbelt in the back of a vehicle, you're breaking, you would be breaking the law under a proposed new bill that's really not controversial. So we're just going to move on that because I want to talk about the U.S. Census. The U.S. Census Bureau is gearing up for the 2020 census, and this week they held a press conference revealing the strategies that they'll use to make sure African Americans are counted. Now, this is an issue close to me and Theron, as Governor Kemp appointed us co-executive directors of the Marketing Committee for the Georgia Complete Count Committee. Theron, African Americans, especially African American young men, were undercounted 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I know you attended the briefing. I unfortunately could not make it, but I think that you and I will both agree that we need all the dollars that we can possibly raise and get allocated with different governments. And I just want to compliment this new form of organization, but also the complete count committees in all the different 156 counties as we tape around the state of Georgia. But the bottom line is this: we know that African American men and also Hispanics are some of the hard to count demographics, and so I think that what we also need to do is that we need to figure out how we're going to spend the resources in a very smart way to make sure that it's not duplicating efforts. Because while we do need to make sure that those different demographics are counted, I mean, we want to make sure we beat the state average, which 10 years ago was 72%. So I know you and I have an audacious goal of beating that. So I think everyone deserves to be counted, but we definitely need all these organizations focusing on some of these hard to count populations and demographics.
You know, one of the things that I noticed, and I don't know if you all saw this in the AtlantaDailyWorld.com last week, was a story from the Secretary of State's office warning people about being snookered by people calling up to get their personal information. And that's a big issue, particularly in communities of color who are afraid of authorities who might want to rip them off or do some harm. So I think that's a real strong issue that needs to be paid attention to.
Well, security is a big issue because this is the first year that you'll be able to fill out your census online. You can do it on your mobile phone, you can do it on your computer, and so security is a really big issue. But there are, just to reiterate, if you are called by the census, it's not real unless you've already filled out your form and people had questions about your form. So if you get a call, you just got to be careful
Well, that's good to know.
on this. So the other thing is also, it's really, the phone calls are one thing, but if they're asking you social security numbers and all that, that is not.
Or to go to websites.
Well, are they
Yeah.
targeting neighborhoods, key neighborhoods where there might be an undercount by going
Yes, they
door to
are.
door?
They will be going door to door.
Okay, and there's what is there? You asking for volunteers?
Yeah, partnerships with different organizations.
And just because it's online, you're not going to get an email to say, come, fill out your census. You still get the phone call to say, hey, have you filled out your form?
Okay.
And for our viewers who are looking for a job, I know that they're going to hire
Right.
a lot of new people. And so in this Trump economy where I know Phil and myself and Janelle and Alexis and Lori are doing well, there are some struggling people out there that need these extra jobs. And so that's a way for them to, help support their families.
I think that's a good point. And like I said, my only concern is as long as it stays apolitical, then I'm good when it comes to that. Because I mean, people get real tricky when it comes to politics and it's an election season. So as long as it remains apolitical, I'm all the way on board.
And it should.
It's necessary.
It's nonpartisan. It's everyone counts.
That's right.
Prisoners, everyone counts.
Yeah.
Babies.
So, yes. And babies especially. That's another undercounted population. So we'll be back with winners and losers. Stay tuned, everyone.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
And we'll start with Alexis.
Okay, great. I want to recognize two authors this week. Dorothy Butler Gilliam. She was the first black woman to be a reporter at the Washington Post, and she went on to have an amazing career, and her goal was to get more people of color, more women into positions of authority in the Post and in the industry wide. It's a really good read, so you should check that out.
Looks like a great book.
I've got a second author. I had the privilege of interviewing her for the Press Club, and this one is a book called No Surrender. It's by Chris Edmonds about his father's experiences as a POW during World War II, and I had a chance to interview him for the Jewish Book Festival because he had a Spartacus moment when the Nazi major called all the Jews out of his unit to report out that next morning and no one else, and he didn't do it. He caucused everybody. It was over 200 Jewish military officers out of 1,200, so he caucused the whole 1,200 that day and said, we're all going out, we're not going to send them out, and it was amazing. Really wonderful story.
Great. All right, two good books there, two good reads. Janelle.
Awesome. Okay. Well, my winner this week are the two polls that were released that show that there's growing support from the president amongst the African American community. And my loser this week is Anna Navarro, who said that the polls were fake and that the only people that were polled were surrogates and Kanye West, which was ignorant. And then my last loser is Leonard McKelvey, also known as Charlemagne the God, who made a statement that said that although African Americans are prospering under this administration, for us it's not worth it, is what he said. So in other words, still vote against what's benefiting you, which makes no sense. So both of them are my losers for this week.
All right, Phil.
Well, I've got a loser. The idiots at the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. They actually attacked UGA, our mascot at the University of Georgia, claimed that he should be pulled away and given to a loving family. Well, wait a minute. The Seiler family of Savannah is a loving family. The dog gets into a private plane and he gets an air-conditioned house. I think those are the PETAs. Yeah, that's right. And And so PETA is my loser.
It can't get much better
That's right.
than what
I got a
others
winner.
treated.
He was the late State Representative Jay Powell.
Yes.
Very sad we lost him at age 67. He was chairman of the Rules Committee. And I have to say, I'm going to go after the AJC, Theron. You got me fired up. I think that the Clint Eastwood is my winner because he's got a film coming out that tells a lot more truth than the AJC is doing about the story of Richard Jewell. And the movie is The Suspect by Clint Eastwood. We ought to go together and look at that. The AJC needs to shut up because they really hurt this man and caused his early death.
Well,
Aaron.
shout out to the AJC. But no, definitely want to go quickly here. Definitely want to offer my condolences to Chairman Jay Powell. I think I speak for all lobbyists and everybody at the Capitol. He was fair, balanced. I mean, he was a good man, and we're going to miss him. Also, want to give a shout out to Cynthia Minor. She's a U.S. Postal Service worker, and she watches the show every week. She represents the Atlantic Station 30306
Nice.
area code. And then lastly, I just want to be thankful for my team. So Jeremiah, Kenyatta, Michelle, and Kiyoshi. I know we are going to celebrate Thanksgiving, so I just want to thank them for all their hard work every day for the firm.
That's awesome.
great.
And I know that we are thankful for all of you. I'm very thankful to be on the show. And thank you all to our viewers. And one last one, Theron Johnson, for being honored, our Theron, by the Sadie Grice Foundation. What a big honor for you.
Thank
So
you.
congratulations.
Shout out to John Funny and all the great work that he's doing with that organization on behalf of his mother, late mother.
Awesome. Well, we're proud of you.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
Great.
all right, everyone, thanks so much for joining us. Hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll see you back here next week. Bye-bye.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program